And good morning. I come here to learn, and the learning won't happen in these first few minutes. But I must have a question in my mind, and then I'll find the answers to my questions. Without a question, there's no learning. So I'm just going to state what my questions are. And I'm hoping that by the end of the 2 days, by tomorrow afternoon, if I come back, which I will, I'll have learned something. The subject of your seminar is use of mobile phones for social and behavior change. So I'm starting sort of backwards. Behavior change. The change in the behavior of an individual doing something different to what the individual was doing earlier, because communication in some form has induced this person to change her or his behavior in that matter. Larger social change, the norms of society about how things are done and what's expected of people changes. And third, of course, is how communication causes social change and behavior change. And finally, the use of technologies of different sorts, like mobile phones, which is what you're emphasizing today in communication. Inducing people to drink more Coca-Cola. Let's have a Coke bottle in the hands of everybody. Behavior change. And Coca-Cola has been doing this for decades. And many marketeers induce people to change their behavior through some forms of communication. Eat more potato wafers, Have them when you are snacking quickly on your way to work. Keep it with you when you're watching the ball game. If you're allowed to, also munch them when you are eating a family meal together. So some people are inducing people to change their behaviors, and they're very successful. They use communication technologies, they understand triggers in people's minds and how those triggers could be moved using communication to get behavior change. And now, Coca-Cola wafer, since I mentioned it, we are getting campaigns to say obesity and fast foods are bad for health. So change your behavior with respect to these matters, actually. Don't eat so many wafers and junk food and drink so many sodas. Same tools shall be used to induce people to change their behavior. We talk about child health, breastfeeding or powdered milk. The people who sold powdered milk and sell it are inducing mothers to change their behaviors with respect to how to feed the child. And the other side is wanting change in the mother's behavior so that the mother would rather breastfeed than give powdered milk to the child. So the point I'm making is that tools of communication are effective in changing behavior, but the question often comes is, what behavior change do we want? And there will be agreements and disagreements about desired behavior change of people in society. Overall, in a very large way, we talk about the climate and the environment. Consume more. And we market and ask people to consume more because it's good certainly for the person's marketing, but also apparently for the growth of the whole economy. If people consume more, we'd all be better off, so it says. But on the other side, we say, no, actually consume less, because we are all going to be badly off if we all consume more. How do we make up our mind what is the right direction for change of individual behaviors and collective behaviors? I'm coming, therefore, to make a distinction between delivering something and making people consume something efficiently versus determining what we want ourselves as a society to do. The difference between e-government and e-governance. Most of what we are calling e-governance is really what I'm calling e-government. is the delivery of government services. And private sector companies are very good at that and have been by the examples I've shown you. And so, yes, we would like to use tools of technology and tools of behavior change and communication to get people to more efficiently being able to consume whatever it is, the service that we believe is good for them. But what do people really want? What is good for them? How are those decisions taken? That is a key. And we must continue to, as we are propagating the use of another infection called mobile phones, ask ourselves, like you said, the disease, the consequences of, I can get so diseased that I can't hear my wife complaining in the morning, or my children laughing and smiling because I'm connected with something remote from where I am. It's a remote connection through a mobile, and you have Facebook, social media, which multiplies the spread of this infection of communication, not communication, data, information, very, very considerably. Nuclear technology is very powerful, little things. And as it was let loose, the world began to realize you've got to contain the spread of nuclear technology. Weapons of mass destruction. Don't allow others to have them, because if these things get overused, we can destroy something very important to us, which is all of life, perhaps. I'm using this analogy very deliberately, that as we're getting on to asking people to just get infected and use this thing and make it available, we do know that the same technologies of communication can be used for selling one idea or another idea. And we may not like one idea. Who's we? Some of us may not like one idea. Apparently the others who are propagating that idea like that idea. And we have another idea. So it's being discovered, and I'm glad Paolo's here with his experience and tremendous research to illuminate some of the questions that I'm posing here. Is how do people make sense when there is so much data that is available now? We have, as human beings, apparently, some processes that work inside ourselves to make sense of information. I mean, there must be some digestion process. Just throwing 100 pieces of data at you and asking you in an instant to tell me, what do you make of this? I know you can't do it. Yes. Either someone has already put a pattern into it to induce you to think of what this data is saying in one way, then you can. Or if you have to find the pattern, you're going to have to reflect and discuss and compare 2-3 different ways of looking at it. So if it's about someone putting a pattern into it already and saying, look, this data is proof that this is the right conclusion, we know how that is done. Yes? It's a brainwashing of sorts, and we in marketing can do that rather well. We are, however, even if no one's forcing us to take a particular view, because of our processes internally of making sense, we are compelled to choose some data only to focus on and ignore the others. And we do that instinctively. And so people describe this as an attention limitation. And nowadays people say that we are all suffering from an attention deficit disorder. There's just too much information. And so we're not paying attention to the real things. We're just receiving in data all the time and not able to locate what is the real signal in all this noise. So I would like very much that as we are talking about changes in behaviors of families or individuals, we have in our mind also, I'm sure, some beliefs about what is a good behavior change. And that good behavior change could be to do with matters of nutrition or eating, as I said. Could also be good behavior with respect to switching on your mobile every morning so that there's more usage of the mobile, so that there's more business in the mobile. Yeah, we can grow all that business too. Yes, we can do that also. But there are consequences. of anything which goes too far, without recognizing that there are, as they call in systems sciences, balancing loops. There are unintended consequences, fixes that backfire. Are we aware of the whole system into which we are throwing this little weapon of potential mass destruction? This conference is of people who, maybe other than me, are very literate with the use of mobile communications, much beyond the mobile phone too. I'm sure that the young people around here, and even the older ones, their social media, their Facebook, their Twitter is all at hand. Perhaps you could have had this conference without meeting in this nice dome, actually. Why did you need to come here? You could have talked off, and many more people could have joined that. I don't know whether it would have been a conversation, but could have joined that large mass chatter. So why didn't you do it that way? Why are you wanting to have a very structured process, as you described, as Soma described, that we lay out some questions at the beginning, some sorts. Then we have already proposed some things to focus on, which is your choice, by the way. But we are going to focus on those 4 things, and we are all going to reflect, I'm told, on those 4 things, and come at the end to make some sense together of, so, what have we learned, what have I learned, what am I going to take back into what I do in this broad space called mobile phones for communication and social and behavior change. So something will happen in terms of sense making in each of us because we've used this process rather than just use the technology. I've been concerned about this, and we in the Government of India are concerned about this, that we need better governance, as I say, about people being able to democratically make good choices, choices that are good for them, choices made by them. And it must go beyond just delivering things to them and they knowing what they get using mobile or social technologies. I would say, supposing this is a panchayat meeting together and saying, well, we need to determine what the use of water in our area should be, what mothers in our community should do with respect to children, and how we will support the mothers when they are doing those things that are good for the children to do that. How would we take this decision? If you took that here into this group and said, well, what's the process that makes that happen? And as Paolo will, I'm sure, say, it's not an easy process. There's a sense-making and a listening required of each other, which we don't do very well. And just throwing more data at people actually doesn't improve their listening. They just exclude what they don't like. And so we get intellectually gated communities and very divided communities in terms of ideologies, which is the bane of our time in terms of decision making. I put down at the request of some folks some years ago, a publisher, who suggested that since I've got this question and some thoughts about this question, maybe I should write a book about it. So I did. It's a book called Discordant Democrats. And he said you should suggest what are ways for discord to be converted into some possibilities of agreement democratically. So I put down 5 steps, very simplistic, quite wrong. 5 steps to arriving consensus when you are in a situation where there are many people, all of whom should have a right to at least understand, if not to contribute even, to the questions and the development of solutions. We need processes by which many eyes, we want more people being empowered, the eyes, to be able to discover the collective we amongst themselves. So I leave that thought about the use of mobile phones for creating more collaboration, more consensus amongst us about the behavior change that we expect of each of ourselves, and thus for the improvement of society. So looking forward to the outcome of your learning and discussion at the end of tomorrow. Thank you.